Are we going to feel sad about this trope? Are we just going to accept that this is the way life is? Or do we just see hope down the line for our star-crossed lovers?
Well, it makes me sad. So I don't like taking the idea that it isn't going to work out. I don't like accepting that. Difficulties accepting that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you know, viewers, hit like, comment, subscribe. But we had a discussion before we came sort of on air about whether or not by star-crossed lovers we meant that they would never be together or that they experience extreme difficulties, but on the second last page or the second last frame, it all gets resolved and they do come together. Now, because Tracey's the optimist and I am the pessimist, I was like, oh, I'm thinking that it just never does happen. That's what would be the point of star-crossed lovers. Whereas Tracey's like, I'm with you right up until the word never. Because never happens for me. So, Tracey, then what for you would be an example of star-crossed lovers?
Well, I've talked about this before, the Serendipity movie. So it's kind of soulmatey, right? So I kind of connect soulmate and star-crossed because it's divinely orchestrated. They couldn't be together when they wanted to be at first try. It didn't work out for them, the characters in Serendipity. But they did ultimately, after being separated, after struggling to find each other, they got together in the end. They were meant to be in the stars. It just took time.
Yes. Yeah, there is that on that Friday night. When you're picking up your movie, you have to decide, okay, it's been a tough week and I need a smile at the end of it. Or it's been a tough week and I want other people to suffer too.
You want to share the misery. Oh no, Moira. Then you'll just
No,
fall asleep. You'll fall asleep. I know it.
but maybe there's a reason that I've never watched Titanic. Yeah, because that's the ultimate star-crossed lover big box hit, right? Most people watch it for the beautiful love story, the angst that they never did get together. Destiny brought them together and then just tore them apart.
That's rude.
Yes. But again, okay, this comes back to, okay, what are you going to call a romance? Well, you have to have the romance has to have the happy ending. Otherwise, it's just a grand love story.
I've been thinking about that since we talked earlier, and it makes me feel bad about using Romeo and Juliet ever as an example because that is not happily ever after at all. It's a very depressing story. And I'm sorry I ever used it as an example of a romance because you're right. It is not a romance anymore if it's not happily ever after. Stamp, right?
Well, according to the Romance Writers of America, it is not a romance if
See?
that happens. But you see, then, maybe we need to challenge that idea of a romance because for many years, a romance was closer to just the idea of an adventure, and between, and then it became between a couple, right? So it had all those possibilities to it. The current genre of romance is quite narrow in its parameters, and there has been some challenging of it, but more in terms of the types of characters, the reptile. But that whole idea is that it's got to end happily has never really been challenged beyond that. You could have happily for now. We never look beyond, pull back the curtain and look at the after. So now it's like, well, I guess you can't have star-crossed lovers in a romance. Is that the question? Is this a trope that exists outside of the romance genre?
Well, if you put it that way, I think probably there is room. Oh, and it pains me to say it because I do love a good ending, but there is room for a beautiful love story and they had their happily ever after. It was just a very brief time because then they drowned or whatever. I think there probably is room for that. It's just got to be identified for those of us who really can't handle the crying. You know, like,
Right.
don't we have different categories of mysteries? They'll have like, you know, violent mysteries or cozy mysteries. They have different types of that. So maybe there's room for that in the romance genre as well.
Oh, yeah, that's always an idea. The tearjerker romance. Oh no, but even beyond that, right?
Yeah.
It's the tragedy hyphen romance.
Yeah.
Um, so I always think when star-crossed, the time traveler's wife, Audrey Neffenger. Yes, I think I said it right this time. If not, apologies, Audrey. I really tried. I read that book years and years ago, and although I easily forget books, I do remember this one. It tells the story of Henry and Claire. Henry has this genetic disorder in which he all of a sudden will disappear from the current time space continuum and reappear in another part of his life. Claire, who lives a conventional linear life, kind of misses out. So she'll come around the corner and there see just his clothing and he's gone because he always disappears naked. They come together, they come apart, they spend years together, they marry, they do have a child, then he disappears. So it's this continual star-crossed lovers that spools out over decades, over their entire lifetime. It wasn't published as a romance, but there's a definite love story component through it. How do we carry our emotions across time? You know, how do we link our emotions to time? So you can, I suppose, have success in writing that genre that makes people feel, okay, I'm reading a love story, but it is not a conventional romance.
I just remembered another one. Lady Hawk. The guy is a knight. The love of his life turns into a hawk in the day and turns into a lady at night. Maybe he turns into something at night. Anyway, very difficult to arrange a romantic tryst when your lady is, in fact, a hawk. See,
So
star-crossed, problems all around. So these star-crossed lovers become more about how to navigate your time together with the obstacles around you. Rather than they know they're meant to be. They just have some obstacles.
There's the myth, the original star-crossed lovers in the Greek mythology of Orpheus and Eurydice. She dies for various reasons. The latest popular one is she was bitten by a snake and died of poisoning. So he goes to the underworld and brings her back. And the rule Hades said was, you can bring her back from the dead, but you cannot look behind you until you've cleared the cave. Well, he gets excited at the last moment and looks behind, and she fades back into the underworld. The lesson we are taking away from that is that you can't make things last longer than they're intended to be. At what point do you decide that it is over and that we're not star-crossed? If you're intending love to be between these two people, then it's sad. At the same time, there's many people who breathe a huge sigh of relief when a couple decide that it's done. This very toxic couple need to see that, yeah, it's not going to work.
So maybe this is the one they need to break up with and then go on to do a fake relationship with someone else, and then it turns into real love.
That's right. Then you enter into the value of a rebound relationship that really is not a rebound relationship, that is just
right.
a friends to lovers / fake relationship, and steer. And let's get this all done. Get the star-crossed stuff out of the way by page 50 at the maximum so we can get into this real romance, right?
Let's get into the good meaty stuff.
I think we're at time.
I think we are. Good
All right.
chatting with you.
Likewise. Bye now.
Bye.